Good day, everyone. So, whilst the builds are being shown in the background, since I'm always asked to sort of show these builds, whatever, let's answer the question: is Kokomi falling out of flavor in the current Spiral Abyss? And the answer is no. Obviously, in terms of her meta team compositions, she's perfectly usable, and you can easily get 9 stars. And I'll give you a bit of like a demo here in the background. But I think the more interesting question is, what is up with the current Spiral Abyss? Because it really doesn't inspire me to play it, because the first halves are just all cryo, which basically means you are going to use Shungling. There is no other off-field pyro applicator really in the game. I must say on my alt account I've had quite a bit of success with double Hydro Klee, although you really do need to know what you're doing to get kind of the maximum benefit of it, but I do assume most people will just be running Shungling. Of course, I won't be doing it in the background footage because my account doesn't care for that, but, and I don't mean this sarcastically, genuinely, you should be running at least some Xiangling or Bennett or Kaz or some sort of variant of that for you to have a bit of success and so on. Not that it's necessary, it's just the problem with the current Spiral business, if you don't clear fast on the first half, which is very pyro sort of favored, you're going to struggle in the second half. And it's more so that a lot of people struggle because they don't clear the final floor fast enough. So that final floor of the lava chills and whatever, or helichills or ice chills or whatever we call them, you have to clear that within about 50 seconds, ideally 45 seconds, because that'll give you 2 phases against the flying Anemo, snake, whatever. And that is kind of the big problem in the Spiral Abyss. So the diversity in terms of team comps has absolutely been killed, and that is just Hoyo and their infinitely brilliant design. So honestly, what does this now mean for a Kokomi-like team? Well, you're going to run Kokomi on the second half. Freeze teams are very, very strong with Kokomi because your Ayak and Shinna can easily take out the Hydrolectors here. But of course, I think my sort of favorite variation is with Nilo and so on. But if you're going to be running Nilo Kokomi, you should be running Nehida and Kole, so that is the meta Nilo sort of team. If you try to run the sort of Traveler or other variants with Kokomi, it's just going to be a struggle, and not on the first 2 floors, but on the final floor. That's kind of what I found. But with Nehida, the final floor is very easily doable. If you look at like Jamie's channel and so on, you would have seen that he did it like very, very quickly. But from a purely like sort of Nilo with auto based and slot, just average Kokomi, just Traveler, it's kind of very, very difficult unless you've got some really, really strong artifacts. But yeah, that's why Nehida is just so good. In any case, so yeah, the sort of Hyper Bloom, Bloom team, Needle Bloom team, and then of course the Hyper Bloom team, as you can see in the background, is also obviously possible. These little Hydro Lectors are extremely annoying. I just prefer putting them here in the corner. It really doesn't matter how much they knock me around and so on. The key thing is just not to let them hit you with that attack that increases like your cooldown usage, because that is like really, really bad. But other than that, just try and group them, and it's fairly, it's not really that difficult to sort of take them down. It's just annoying, and I think that's kind of what Hoyo did here. I definitely do not like these monsters in the Spiral Abyss. Any sort of like time when application of elements is more important than damage, I feel like that's just, it's fine if it's on one floor, but it's on both floors. It's just, it kills the diversity of what you can bring in the game, and that's just really, really not so cool. But you know what is really cool? Well, that is Mago Kinky, and yeah, it's just always fun to sort of like mess around with him. I do wish they change his AI so he doesn't like back into a corner, but instead if he detects that he's close to a boundary, then he just dashes to the middle of like the abyss. I think that'd be like such a cool challenge. A lot of people kind of cheesed him as a boss by pushing him into a corner, which is just like, it's such a good boss. I think Mago Kinky is such a, probably like for me the best like sort of enemy that's ever been designed in Genshin Impact. So, and I really do mean it. I think he is such a cool enemy. I just wish they change up his little AI and so on, but whatever. Right, so let's get back to the Kokomi team. So obviously what you want to do if you're trying to copy what I'm sort of doing here is just sort of ensure that you can properly group up the enemies. So this is pretty straightforward and easy. As you can see, no VV units or anime units required, just a bit of like positioning, understanding where to be, and then of course ensuring you spread out your damage evenly, unlike what I've done here. But it's really not that difficult. I do think Hyper Bloom is one of those sort of team comp variations which gives you way too much for what it takes to actually play it from a mechanical perspective. But in a certain sense, well, since the game is pretty casual, that's probably fine as well. But I do think that Hyper Bloom in particular has just a bit of a too strong a multiplier, but hey, it's a very good reaction nonetheless. And of course, it makes Kokomi shine, so that's why I kind of really like it. But yeah, this is all just very comfy. You can see I was really holding onto my jellyfish there, because that one enemy kept like standing way back when, but the moment he sort of was like drawn in, I sort of unleashed Kokomi's jellyfish. Otherwise I would have had a bit of a desync where I would have killed 2 enemies quickly, but the last one would have had more full health, and then if you don't have the enemies in the AoE, well, it just would take more time to kind of like finish them off. So I know if you're a very experienced player, you understand like what's going on and so on, but just do understand that by grouping enemies properly, it can really make a very big difference on this chamber too, and like what your time is. So do keep that in mind. Right, here's our final chamber, and I think this is the one which I kind of like hate the most. The reason I hate it is because you need to clear this fast if you're gonna have a chance against the little flying animo snake, and that is just I just don't know why Hoya does this. This is like a perfect chamber for if they'd like swap this chamber around with Mago Kinky and they'd swapped out the animo flying thing with another, like, let's say, good AoE chamber in the second half, I think this abyss would have been fine, but as it is, it's just absolutely horrible. Right, so what's the strategy? Well, we're going to sort of try and back here into a corner, pop down our jellyfish right here, because we want this enemy right to sort of come up in this position so we can hit him, start triggering hyper blooms, and of course having him come up here means that he's going to obviously resurface at this point, which means all our abilities will hit him, and we would have then batteried our traveler back up once again. This is ordinarily where I would have used Oz if I had him online, or Official's ultimate, just to dash towards the enemy, but really doesn't matter. You can just plop down Kokomi's jellyfish and then just cycle throughout your cooldowns and so on. You can clearly see there's like so much time being wasted where you don't have a good damage window, and I feel like if Hoyo's going to put down enemies like this, they should at least decrease the resistance and not just increase it. Like, you have such a small damage window, it's just insane. But in any case, it's pretty easy to sort of break him down, trigger more hyper blooms. You can see that's what I'm doing with the traveler, using Kokomi, triggering some extra sort of hyper blooms with her ult, which applies 2 units of hydro. Pretty cool. With jellyfish and normal attacks, you can get as much of the cores as you can for the hyper bloom, and that should take you to about like half of his health. And then we just need to rinse and repeat. So this is what I've said: if you can clear the first half pretty quickly, and you're gonna have to use Xiangling and Animo unit, and probably, in my opinion, Xiangling, Xingshu, Yeilon and Kazuo or Sucrose or whatever is pretty good to do it, then yeah, you'll then have enough time to beat up this enemy, unless of course you've got enough power to just sort of one-shot him, but I do assume most F2Ps are not always in that sort of like position. But yeah, this is sort of how you do it. It's pretty boring. It's not there's no real skill or technique involved here apart from just knowing where you need to stand, but that's what this Power Abyss has been devolved to. So this is why I've been enjoying my time actually in the Honkai Impact. I haven't really been covering this Power Abyss because it's just a snooze fest in Genshin, but I must say Honkai Impact is just so much fun with the constant, you know, Abyss rotations every 3 days. It's just so cool. But yeah, to get back to the original question, is Kokomi still managing? Yeah, she's perfectly fine. Just use Xiangling on the first half and then you'll have enough time. Alright, thank you so much for watching, guys. Here's a little wave from Paimon, and see you all in the next video. Cheers.